A flow state is an altered state. Intuition is an altered state. Union with God is an altered state. So how do you get there? And the idea that I'm supposed to go meditate for 4 hours a day in a cave for 20 years, I'll get there. We don't have time for that. The world needs people who are conscious and aware and very hard to program.
You're listening to the Digest This podcast, and I'm your host, Bethany Cameron. Dave Asprey is on the pod today, and this is basically a dream come true for me because when I first started this podcast 3 years ago, my producer asked me to create a wish list of the top people I wanted to interview, and Dave Asprey was the number one person on that list. So it's such a treat to bring this interview to life and share our intellectual conversation with you all. But in case you haven't heard of him, Dave Asprey is responsible for creating biohacking. He started Bulletproof Coffee, and he's the author of several best-selling books, including his newest 2025 book titled Heavily Meditated. In our conversation, Dave talks about how our minds can alter our state of being and actually help change the way our body functions, and gives you the tools to help you in whatever area you are looking to improve for your health, whether that be digestion, weight loss, cognitive function, energy production, and so much more. We also dive into the controversial topic of peanuts, nutritional yeast, long COVID, Botox, and of course, he shares about his recent facial surgery, what exactly he did, and how he recovered after taking antibiotics, because you can't have major surgery without a round of antibiotics. So he shares his tips and tricks on what to take and the best foods to eat. Plus, if you struggle with infertility even after the age of 40, Dave has tips for that too. You better be sure to stay till the very end because every minute of this interview is fire. If it's going in your mouth, it should be as safe as food. You guys know ingredients matter, and we scrutinize every single ingredient in our food. But what about your toothpaste? I have been testing and trying different oral care products for the past 6 months since I noticed the current toothpaste I was using sadly changed their ingredients and started using stuff they were not previously using. So I was back to square one and on the hunt again. After a few months of finding cleaner options, I not only wanted the clean option, but I also wanted something that actually works. Because what's the point of a clean product that doesn't work, right? Risewell caught my attention because it's dentist developed and backed by science using an all-natural ingredient called hydroxyapatite instead of fluoride. Hydroxyapatite is minerals our bodies actually recognize and use. Every single ingredient is food grade, 100% clean, and third-party tested for safety and transparency. And for anyone with sensitive teeth or cavity concerns, the Pro formula has an even higher concentration of hydroxyapatite, micro and nanoforms, for extra support. Risewell even has kids formulas, mouthwash, which I absolutely love, non-toxic scrubby floss, which is PFAS and Teflon free, uniquely infused with hydroxyapatite to remineralize between the teeth where many cavities begin to form. All of Risewell oral care products are safe for all ages, including women who are pregnant and breastfeeding. I mean, if you're already brushing your teeth daily, and I really hope you are, it's a simple swap you can do without changing your daily routine. In the end, it's not just about your teeth. Your mouth is the gateway to your gut and your whole body. After speaking with Risewell, they agreed to offer my listeners 10% off their entire order. Just go to risewell.com/digest and use code DIGEST at checkout. That's RISEWELL.com/digest and use code DIGEST. A few weeks ago, we got not one, but 2 puppies within 24 hours of each other. So our home went from a 0-pet house to a puppy-filled environment, and we immediately started searching for the best dog food to feed our furry friends. That's when I found Ollie. Ollie delivers clean, fresh nutrition in 5 drool-worthy flavors, even for the pickiest eaters, made in USA kitchens with high-quality, human-grade ingredients. Ollie's food contains no fillers, no preservatives, just real food. So how does it work? You fill out Ollie's 30-second quiz and they'll create a customized meal plan based on your pup's weight, activity level, and other health info. Ollie offers 3 meal plans to choose from, so you can choose between a full fresh plan, fresh topper plan, or a mixed plan with their freshly baked recipes for your special furry baby. They also have treats and supplements. Dogs deserve the best, and that means fresh, healthy food. Head to ollie.com/digest. Tell them all about your dog and use code DIGEST to get a whopping 60% off your welcome kit when you subscribe today. Plus, they offer a happiness guarantee on the first box. So if you're not completely satisfied, you'll get your money back. That's ollie.com/digest and enter code DIGEST to get 60% off your first box. Okay, Dave, I feel like you don't even need an intro and everyone knows who you are. If you don't know who Dave Asprey is, I feel like you could be living under a rock. Mom, I told her I was interviewing Dave Asprey and she's like, "Who is that?" I was like, "Are you kidding me, Mom? Like the person that is responsible for inventing the coffee that I drink every single day." So anyways, most people do know who you are, and I'll let you introduce yourself. So why don't you just lay it out there?
Sure. And people call me the father of biohacking because I started the biohacking movement. And my name's in Webster's Dictionary. And it started with some posts on my blog and this idea that we can change the environment around us and inside of us to have control of our biology or control of our state. And this means I could bring together the 20 plus years I've spent in the longevity field and in the consciousness field and in human performance. So the idea is if you're 20 years old, you might say, this is what I care about now. Like maybe I wanted to lose some weight, or I wanted to make my brain work really well so I can do something, or I want to work on my emotional regularity and anxiety. Or maybe you're 40 and you're saying, I want to make my brain work better and I really don't like the dad bod. Or I'm hitting perimenopause and I'd like to be in charge of myself because I don't know why my body's doing this. Or maybe you're 70 and you're saying, I'd like to make myself young again. All of these are possible. Different goals, same techniques and technologies. So biohacking is today, about 14 years after I started it, a $63 billion industry, if you believe the industry analysts. And I started a well-known company called Bulletproof. You've probably seen people putting butter in coffee. I created that. And I am no longer involved with Bulletproof anymore. My new coffee company is called Danger Coffee because who knows what you might do. It's the good kind of danger.
Okay. So I want to get into all of this, but even before we get started, I like to start my podcast with some rapid fire yes or no questions, and you can only answer yes or no. Are you ready?
Okay.
All right. First question. Is Ozempic a miracle drug?
Yes.
Can peanuts cause mold in your body?
Yes.
Okay. Is kale toxic to everyone?
Yes.
Should nuts be avoided even if they are sprouted and the skins are removed?
That's not a yes or no question. Sorry.
Okay.
But it depends on the nut, right? If it's a peanut,
right.
no, yeah, probably. So it depends on the nut.
Okay. This is a multiple choice. So if you could only eat one type of carb the rest of your life, would it be sweet potato or rice or white rice?
100% white rice.
Oh, okay. Last question, again, multiple choice. If you could only eat one protein source the rest of your life, would it be A, liver, B, salmon, C, beef, or D, eggs?
Beef.
Beef. Okay. I feel like that was an easy one. Okay. So you mentioned
I was going to say cow because that would include the liver, but hey.
Yeah, we're more specific over here. That would have been a good twister though. All right. So as you mentioned, you're literally drinking your Danger coffee. You are responsible for the Bulletproof Coffee movement. I drink it every day. I actually use ghee or butter, but then I add grass-fed gelatin. Have you tried that yet?
Oh, yeah. I've been talking about adding collagen peptides, which are basically just digested gelatin. So collagen is a major a major protein that's important in the body. You don't want to get too much collagen or gelatin, but most people don't get any. So I raised that as a major issue in the longevity movement. And today, like everybody knows, you should have some collagen. And it wasn't common knowledge 10 years ago.
Do you, because I blend it, I do the gelatin and it kind of makes it frothy like a latte. Do you blend it or you just mix it?
You have to blend ghee or MCT oil or butter into your coffee or it doesn't work. And there's reasons for that I could not figure out. I finally funded research at the University of Washington. It was like $50,000 worth of research to find out why blending was important. And if you put collagen in and you blend it, it'll be smooth and creamy. If you just kind of stir it in, it'll be lumpy and gross. So you should blend it for flavor on the collagen, and you blend the fats for what it does to change the structure of the water so that your cells can use it more easily. I figured out the science with help from University of Washington, but it was the Tibetans who figured out a long time ago that if you blended the fat in with warm tea, that it did something good energetically, but the something good was very hard to discover. So there's a method behind the science. My commitment to myself when I weighed 300 pounds, and I tried every diet on the planet, and I tried exercising 90 minutes a day, 6 days a week, it didn't work. And I just said, I'm going to quit doing things that are supposed to work, and I'm going to try everything. And I'm only going to do what works. So you have to measure it. And that's why I was able to come up with these unusual but very functional ideas that now millions of people use.
And it's safe to say that's a biohack.
It is indeed.
Okay. So you have lost a bunch of weight.
Yeah.
And I want you to share a little bit about that story. And if you don't mind, you also were pretty public about your recent surgery.
Oh, sure.
And so I want to kind of get into that of why you chose that, why no Botox, the whole recovery with antibiotics, all that good stuff.
Well, I used to weigh 300 pounds. I'm about 195 pounds now. And I'm incredibly lean. And I don't diet, I don't try to be lean. It's just how my biology works when everything works right. So I'm going to be like the douchebag guy and like show my abs off, right? I didn't like do anything crazy this morning, but like this is unusual.
That's super lean. Yeah.
Like, and you can actually, like, there's veins and stuff. Like, that's crazy, right? But I can also grab skin that you should not be able to grab. That's not fat. That's from when I was fat. So my body has about half of a large bath towel worth of extra skin. And I had a lot of it on my face. And when you get lean, you have less fat everywhere, including on your face. And I actually lost the dimples. See, I have dimples? I'd lost those that I had my entire life because I just had twice as much skin on my face as I should have had just from normal aging. So I tried everything, all the lasers and stuff. Doesn't work. Not for that volume of skin. So after a lot of work, I did an advanced stem cell actual facelift where they took a piece of skin from each side of my face this big, like literally that much skin on each side of my face.
Oh my gosh.
28 square inches. And there's no way to do that with just normal biological stuff. The body is not set up to remove that much extra tissue because we're never set up to be that fat. So I decided to do it. And I was completely camera ready in about 3 weeks. And I posted a video saying it would be a lot cheaper and less painful to just not get fat in the first place. So don't get really obese because you will have to deal with the skin. So I dealt with the skin, and I think my face looks pretty freaking good. And I recognize myself again. I have my dimples, and I'm completely happy with it. And I have no issues with having controlled my biology. I'm going to live to 180 years old. I'd like to have a matching amount of skin to my current body weight rather than twice as much skin as I need.
Well, your face looks amazing. I can't even tell that you had surgery, like a month and a half ago? How long ago?
It was about 6 weeks. That sounds about right. Maybe 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no evidence.
I saw the photo that you did on Instagram.
Little scar right there.
Okay.
Do you see that tiny little scar?
It's hard to see through the video, but I can see it a little bit. Yeah.
If you look above this eye, there's a little bit one right there. You see it?
Okay. Now, do you have a scar right here by your ear?
No, there's no scars at all.
Okay.
There's a scar behind the ear, but what I did is I went to this place called RMI. If you go to daveasprey.com/RMI, I talk about it. So I didn't just do a facelift, they mixed stem cells in with my own fat so that my body would heal very rapidly. And then I did all the normal biohacking stuff that I do and just recovered shockingly quickly. And my skin is really good. I'm so happy with how it came out. And some people saying, Dave, you got a facelift. No, I actually got like 2 facelifts. It's more like a facial circumcision. Like there's a lot of skin on my face. There's a picture on Instagram where I'm grabbing the skin on my face and just pulling on it. So I have like young skin, but you have a lot of young skin. What are you going to do with it? It's got to go somewhere.
Wow. Well, you look amazing. And that's probably why, too, you already follow a healthy diet. So that's probably why you had a quick recovery and all the things that you do already. And I think that a lot of people are curious because you didn't do Botox, obviously, and that wouldn't even solve the issue, right?
I have tried Botox and Xeomin historically. And Xeomin is basically Botox without the proteins that can cause the inflammatory problems. There is a downside to Botox. It appears to accumulate in the brain. And I practice really advanced meditation with computers hooked to my head. I teach people how to do it. I just wrote Heavily Meditated. After Botox, for about a week, I can feel a difference in my meditation, in my cognition. It's a subtle thing, but it's not a placebo thing. It's like there's certain like states that I can just turn on and off, and they're very hard to turn on and off. So it's like a sluggishness of the energetics in my brain. And there's science that backs that up. So I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. And there's good evidence at this point that it does increase collagen thickness. But over time, if I'm living for potentially hundreds of years and it accumulates in the brain and we don't know how to get it out, I'm not sure it's a long-term strategy. So I have no Botox in right now. And if we're going to be like really critical, like there's still a little bit on my forehead where there's like a little bit of like wrinkliness. I'm sure I could go Botox the crap out of that. I don't care. Like I like my face and it's not worth it. There's also a bunch of evidence around Botox. Well, it limits other people's ability to know your emotions. So if your face is sort of glassy smooth and you don't have a smile, how are people going to connect with you?
Well, and I also think too, like Botox is literally short for botulism toxin. So in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to put a toxin that's going to paralyze my muscles. And then it's kind of like if you stop doing it, you're just going to look even worse. It's going to be like a huge change.
Yeah, you might want to exercise those muscles instead of paralyze them. That's the other side of things.
Well, there you go. And I told myself, I said, if I were to ever get anything done, it would be a facelift versus Botox, because I feel like that's less toxic. Am I just completely wrong?
Anytime you get surgery, the biggest concern is how are they going to anesthetize you? And this has a lot to do with consciousness because most anesthetics mess with the microtubules in your brain that are probably foundational for consciousness. And not all of them do that. And propofol is provably toxic for your mitochondria. And many people have long-lasting cognitive dysfunction after they have surgery because they use cheap anesthetics. So when I work with whoever's going to put me down for a procedure, and I've had my bone marrow taken out for stem cells multiple times. I've had a hernia repair surgery and 3 knee surgeries. So I've had my share of anesthetics. I am a professional biohacker. So what I do is I say, use as much ketamine as you can and as little propofol as possible. And that minimizes harm because ketamine is actually good for your brain if you use it very infrequently. Regular ketamine use is bad for a bunch of different systems in the body. Occasional ketamine use will regrow your brain. That's why we use it at 40 Years of Zen, which is my neuroscience clinic.
That's amazing. So if anyone is going in for surgery, can they request certain anesthesia?
Yes, the anesthesiologist will be there. And usually they're just like, we'll just slap the mask on, you'll breathe this propofol. And it's provably bad for you. So just say, I don't want very much of that. In fact, avoid it if you can and use other things. And then they also use something that makes you forget things. It causes amnesia. And you can say, I don't want the amnesia drug.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't even know you had an option. I just thought they just gave you whatever they gave you. So that's a good tip to take away.
For sure. And if people are interested, you can go to daveasprey.com/heal. And I have a whole document on what I do before and after surgery in order to recover way faster than you're supposed to. It's free. I'm not trying to sell anything. It's just like, here's the information dense stuff.
Well, I'm going to dig into that. And speaking of, can you give us a little rundown of what you did afterwards? Because obviously you have to take antibiotics when you go through a procedure like that. And so how are you replenishing?
Because I went down to RMI, which is a stem cell clinic that I work with, I was able to, during my recovery, to do a brain upgrade at the same time. So for that, as soon as the bandages came off, I, for 2 hours a day, had focused ultrasound on my brainstem that opens up the blood-brain barrier and allows stem cells to come into my hypothalamus, which resets the central aging clock in your brain and increases your memory. So I literally made my brain younger and faster while I was recovering from the procedure on my face. And part of that is hyperbaric therapy. I brought the True Light red and amber light therapy. I did that for half hour a day. And I ate a just crazy amount, like 3 pounds of steak every day for the first 2 weeks, because your body needs that protein to heal quickly. If it knows it has an abundance of protein, it will heal faster. If it has a normal amount of protein, it's going to limit how quickly you can heal. So I just ate a stupid amount of food and it really helped.
Really? Okay, so here's a interesting question. Did you get constipated from the antibiotics or from surgery? Because a lot of people struggle with that.
I did not. Uh, I don't see how you can be constipated if you have enough magnesium and you have enough soluble fiber like acacia, which feeds good bacteria. So after antibiotics, or even during, I will take acacia gum, which is a prebiotic fiber that feeds the good guys, and I take probiotics at the same time. One of the brands that I've worked with for a while is called Omnibiotic, and they make a specific blend to restore your gut bacteria after antibiotic use. So I use that and several others.
Okay. Okay, everyone needs to be taking notes of this because everyone's going to have a surgery sometime in their
Oh, yeah.
life. It's just kind of guaranteed. You mentioned you're coming out with a book, May
Yes.
20th, Heavily Meditated. Is that a play on the term heavily medicated?
Absolutely. End of the day, even if your body isn't working as well as you want it to work, most people want to be happy. And if you don't want to be happy, you probably really should see a therapist. So you want to be happy, but most of us are like, I'm so anxious, I'm so depressed, I'm going to seek a pharmaceutical solution because that's what my doctor told me to do. That's what the TV told me to do. And we provably are a heavily medicated society right now. And I am not opposed to pharmaceuticals. I'm on 3 or 4 of them right now, actually, especially modafinil, one of my favorite pharmaceuticals ever that increases cognitive function. It's like the limitless pill with very few side effects. I'm like, that is a great drug. So I'm not opposed to drugs at all. I'm just opposed to things that have more risks than benefits. So heavily meditated is saying, here's all the technologies and techniques, including psychedelics, you can use to enter different altered states. So healing is an altered state. Letting something go that's causing your anxiety or depression is an altered state. A flow state is an altered state. Intuition is an altered state. Union with God is an altered state. So how do you get there? And the idea that I'm supposed to go meditate for 4 hours a day in a cave for 20 years, I'll get there. We don't have time for that. The world needs people who are conscious and aware and very hard to program. So in Heavily Meditated, I'm giving away the core program from my $20,000 a week neuroscience program where CEOs go to upgrade their brains in Seattle. I've been running this for 10 years. I have data from more than 1,000 high-performing people. Here's what works to permanently turn off a trigger. And strangely enough, if you permanently turn off a trigger, maybe the lines in your face will get better too, just because you're less cranky.
Okay. So there's a lot of people that really can't meditate. I feel like I'm maybe one of them where I'll just sit in a room and I will maybe have like ADD, but I'll just like get distracted by anything. And I can put my phone away, but I will find something to distract me. Can this book help?
Oh my God, yes. Here's one of the problems with meditation. 98% of humans have been involved in agricultural production throughout most of human history. So most meditation that's out there It's for farmers. If you are not a farmer, you're a hunter, those meditations will not work effectively for you. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. But as someone who had Asperger's syndrome and ADHD, who can meditate as long as I want to, and I don't really get bored, what is going on? The voice in my head is gone. I don't have the angry, critical, mean bitch in there I used to. So you can learn how to do this. And in the book, in Heavily Meditated, I talk about, okay, if you have a hard time paying attention, you actually have a hard time moving blood to the front of your brain. I had such a hard time that I was failing out of Wharton Business School when I was 30 years old. And I had to learn how to move the blood back in. And there's a device in the book that will teach your brain to move blood to the prefrontal cortex, which is what's required for you to focus. So anyone who has ADHD, I've done 2 interviews on my podcast about that tech called Mendy, and another interview about a video game called Endeavor that in clinical studies, both of those will reverse ADHD. So let's train your brain to pay attention. I like to think of the nervous system, the mitochondrial networks, as a Labrador retriever, a big floppy dog. It comes into your house, it slobbers on everything, it tears up the couch, it eats the food off the counter and barks all the time and on pees on the carpet. Like, great. Or that same dog can have a service vest and it'll sit there attentively and you can put a piece of popcorn on its nose and it won't eat the popcorn until you give it permission. You can have a nervous system that's one of those 2 things. So if you, quote, can't pay attention, I would argue you have an untrained biology. All of our bodies come with an operating system, right? And the operating system does stuff that we're not supposed to be aware of. And yours is constantly scanning for threats, and it doesn't know how to put blood and electrical activity in the front of your brain, which allows you to pay attention for as long as you want. And I've shifted my brain dramatically that way.
Could this be why a lot of people maybe have gut issues, is because they're always in a fight and flight state and they can't relax and they're always like on guard of like an attack?
It's so funny. In Heavily Meditated, I read about the vagus nerve and the technologies for controlling this. And the vagus nerve is known as the wandering nerve, and it's the one that connects your gut with your brain and your heart. So it's the fight or flight parasympathetic. And if you have a lot of stress, you will have issues in your gut. If you have issues in your gut, you'll have a lot of stress. So which one came first? I don't know. They're connected.
You guys know I'm really picky about what goes into my body, so that's why I choose Element's Raw Unflavored Electrolyte Mix, which contains just 3 simple ingredients. No maltodextrin, no natural flavors, no stevia, no monk fruit, just 3 simple ingredients that are all contributing to our electrolyte balance. And right now, Element is offering my listeners a free sample pack with any purchase. That's 8 single-serve packets for free with any Element order. So you just have to go to drinklmnt.com/digest to get this offer. Element also has a no questions asked refund policy, so you can try it totally risk-free. If you don't like it, they will give you your money back, no questions asked. Go to drinklmnt.com/digest to get this amazing offer. Nobody wants mold growing inside their mattress, but how can you check without ripping it open? Well, you can't. That's why I love Birch Mattress. Birch mattresses are made from completely natural and organic materials and are Green Guard Gold and Global Organic Latex Standard certified. Their organic latex is hypoallergenic and antimicrobial, which means it's not susceptible to molding or accumulating harsh microbes, and their carefully selected materials act as a natural barrier to dust mites. So, ask yourself, when was the last time you changed or bought a new mattress? And is your mattress fully non-toxic? Birch checks all the boxes in clean, non-toxic, and mold resistant. And I want all my listeners to enjoy a deep, restful night's sleep with a new mattress from Birch. Go to birchliving.com/digest for 27% off site-wide. Plus, you get 2 free EcoRest pillows with mattress purchase. This is exclusive for the Digest This community. That's birchliving.com/digest and get 27% off site-wide plus 2 free EcoRest pillows with a mattress purchase. That's birchliving.com/digest. Man, I struggle with that all the time because I'm always just going, multiple things happening at once with jobs and stuff. And okay, I'm gonna have to get this book and dive into it a little bit more. There's I don't want to say a myth, but there's something going around that says you can lose weight by simply changing the way you're thinking, no diet change or anything. Do you think is that true?
Technically, it is possible, but very, very few people can do that. And it will not work unless your biology is working. So if you have healthy cell metabolism and you don't have toxins blocking your cell's ability to do things, and you have very good, it's called interoception and interoception, and basically you're a trained meditator, you can envision a new body and your body will adapt to that. However, practically doing that while eating Cheetos every day, it doesn't work because to do that, your cells have to be able to make energy to be able to feel and act at their full power. And if you eat a crappy diet and you're lacking minerals, your ability to manifest change in your life, in your body, in your career, in your relationships, it is limited because you are energetically limited. So part of it is, how do I make my body at full power so that my mind can manifest, so that I can visualize, so that I can create change in the world, in my life? And that's why it's a complex answer. What your body's really doing before you have a chance to even think is it's running through this set of checks to make sure that the environment is okay for you, because your brain is very slow compared to the reaction time of your body. So if you touch a hot stove, you pull your hand away, and then you say, good thing I pulled my hand, but something else pulled your hand away. You just took credit for it. So that part of your body, it's invisibly keeping you alive. It also is pumping your heart and making you breathe and all that stuff you don't pay attention to unless you try. So here's what it's doing. Step one, these are all F words, and it's easy to think about this. This happens in 1/3 of a second before your brain gets any signal from the world. So number one, is it scary? This is fear. So if so, and your body thinks it's scary because it once saw something scary that felt like that, it will send you a signal of anxiety and fear. And then you'll believe that. So the guy will walk into the room who looks like someone who was mean to you in high school. Your body, before you can think, is going to send you a signal of discomfort and lack of safety. It doesn't matter if it's the same guy. It's going to feel like it's not safe, regardless of whether it's actually safe. So fear. And let's say, okay, you get past the fear because it wasn't scary. And then it's going to say food, which is the second F word. And famines have killed everything over the last 2 billion years. So your body's really worried about having enough food, which is why 1/3 of the average person's thoughts every day are about tacos. Well, they're about food anyway. Literally 1/3 of the voice in your head is, what's for lunch? What's for dinner? What's for lunch? Ooh, ice cream. Ooh, pizza. You can quiet that voice too, and that frees up some other cycles. So fear, food, the third F word, all life has to do it to stay around for multiple generations, and you think about it a lot. You know what that one is?
I'm afraid to say it.
Obviously, you're thinking about fertility, right?
Oh, fertility, yeah.
Yeah, that's the F word.
That's
okay,
the one.
The other F word too, right? So fear, food, we'll say fertility. Okay. Now, if all life on Earth looks at everything that you sense through those three things, basically, is it scary? Can I eat it and can I hump it? Is there anything that you're ashamed of you've ever done that isn't from one of those three things?
No.
Awesome. Your mitochondria are the problem. It's not you. It's a separate consciousness running to keep your body safe, and they flavor your reality. This is why it's such a challenge. And really what we're doing with all of the altered states work that's in Heavily Meditated, we're teaching the mitochondrial network how to behave itself. It's the same thing as picking up your phone and then turning off all the alerts. So TikTok and messages and emails, bong, bong, bong. You can't even use your phone. Your nervous system is setting off alerts just like your phone. Let's turn off the alerts. That's what the reset process in Heavily Meditated teaches you how to do. It's so precious because it just creates so much space for thinking and acting and being.
Yeah, it's interesting you even mention that and bring that up because a long time ago, I turned off all my alerts on my phone. I don't know how many years ago. And the stress level just went. Whoosh. And now I have a rule that I don't check my emails on my phone anymore. I have a set time where I go to my computer and that's when I check my emails. And the stress is like, because it's not going to change the response. It's going to, but I don't know that I have 20 billion emails when I'm driving in my car. It's when I get home.
It's so freeing. I've trained myself to just accept that people want more of my time than I have. Right now, I'm just checking. I have 1,678 unread text messages.
Did you just check like 2 hours ago and it was zero?
No, I just I tell my friends, I'm like, if I don't answer, I apologize, but I'm on podcasts a lot. Like I'm not going to look at my phone all day long. And please don't take offense if I don't respond. You can text me again and say, hey, Dave, you're a jerk. You didn't see my last message. And I'll go, yeah. And sometimes I miss important text messages. That's okay because living my life is also important. But for me to lose my stress over that was a meaningful amount of personal development work where I realized it's not possible. Every time I reply to a text message, you know what it does? It creates another one.
Yeah. I wish, I don't know if this exists, but I wish that you had like a delayed response to a text message, like a send later,
There is.
like an email. There is?
Yeah.
Okay. I need to get up on that. I'm going to look that up because yeah, sometimes I just don't want to respond right away, even though I see it.
The truth
I'm just
comes
going to be
out.
true. It's true. Sorry, all my friends that are listening to this. All right. Now I want to talk a little bit about nutritional yeast because you are maybe one of the only person that has been vocally has negative context about nutritional yeast. And you may not know this about me, but I almost died. I had multiple things happening at once, but I had fungemia, which is caused by nutritional yeast. It's a bloodstream infection.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I was eating tons of nutritional yeast, by the way, before that. So can you share your knowledge on this?
I've been a vegan. I have been a devout, even raw vegan. That is the fastest path to age your tissues and make yourself have anxiety and nutritional deficiencies. Part of that is we should have nutritional yeast because B vitamins. And there's a common mistaken thinking that started in the 70s. And it says, if there's something good in a food, you should eat the food. And that line of thinking, oh, here's a bowl of cyanide, but I sprinkled some vitamin C on it, but you should eat it because of the vitamin C. They just ignore toxins. And it's not okay to do that. So what nutritional yeast is Mother Nature's MSG. It has a large amount of free glutamate, and nutritional yeast triggers candida and mold growth in the body. And candida is known for yeast infections in women, but it turns out candida grows throughout the body and is really hard to get rid of. I had lots of problems with toxic mold and candida. So nutritional yeast, it was a way to get B vitamins when there was no other way and you couldn't afford liver, but it comes with a big downside. I would never eat live nutritional yeast. If I was going to eat it, I would at least kill it with some heat first, but even then you still have the free monosodium glutamate. So why would you eat nutritional yeast? Because you fell for vegan propaganda the same way I did. It is not a good way to do it. And you oftentimes see yeast extract on labels. That's actually concentrated MSG from nutritional yeast. So not a great way to do this. And if you were to look at the correlations between yeast and cancer, you probably wouldn't like what you see. So I'm not saying nutritional yeast causes cancer. I'm saying nutritional yeast causes yeast to grow in your body. You don't want to be growing yeast in your body. And the fact there's B vitamins, I don't care. You can get them from food and from having healthy gut bacteria.
Okay. So for those that maybe had missed it, nutritional yeast is MSG. So if you think you're trying to avoid MSG, avoid nutritional yeast, pretty much.
Yep.
And what about when they're like, oh, it's deactivated? It's, deactivated nutritional yeast. Is that just a myth? Is it
You
still?
can deactivate it by using chemicals or heat to stop it from reproducing in your body, which is a good idea. It still has the proteins on the surface that can cause an immune reaction to yeast, which you probably don't want, and it still has MSG in it. So I'd rather want inactivated nutritional yeast, but they're just using it because it's a greenwashed way of saying I used a flavor enhancer to make something gross like kale taste like food, even though it's not really food.
Kale chips, that's nutritional yeast and kale. It's a double-edged sword right there.
Sometimes they're nice enough to bake them with canola oil or something. Gross.
Oh, there you go. That's a good solution.
Yeah.
All right. So what's the deal with peanuts?
All right. Peanuts are one of the worst foods for your health, and they have so many problems. And the reality is, we use peanuts to feed to the peasants, just like whole grains. And there's calories in them. They can keep you alive, but they're calories that come with a load of things you don't want. So if you were the wealthy king in the castle, you would feed the low cost, high toxin sources of calories to the peasants. And as long as it keeps them alive long enough to work, that's what you wanted. This is dark, but that's how it works. This is why you'll find things like whole grains, peanuts, and all that. They're meant to feed the masses regardless of the downside. And the downside with peanuts is, number one, they are the largest source of aflatoxin in our food supply. Aflatoxin is the most cancer-causing compound known to man. And I know a lot about toxic mold because I've had toxic mold in my house. I filmed a documentary on it. And Danger Coffee is lab tested for mold because mold actually affects your consciousness in a major way. And I talk about that in Heavily Meditated. Then, okay, aflatoxin in peanuts, let's say that magically you get some peanuts that don't have that, even though it's very common. Well, they're very high in a form of lectin that is rough on some people's biology, but not others. Lectin's a plant defense compound. But if that wasn't enough, they're exceptionally high in oxalate, which is another plant defense compound that forms razor sharp calcium crystals. So if you happen to have urinary tract infections or interstitial cystitis, or you have weird skin outbreaks, or you have pain in your joints, this is from razor sharp calcium crystals forming when oxalate from peanuts and spinach and kale and raspberries and almonds and a bunch of other stuff, when they form in your body, you get system-wide problems the way I used to have and I don't anymore. And on top of that, peanuts also contain something called very long-chain saturated fatty acids. Now, generally, I like saturated fats because they're stable, but these are such long chains, they don't fit in your cell membranes. So instead of going in the way they should to allow insulin and things to work, they go in sideways and clog up your cell membranes. These very long chain saturated fats are correlated with Alzheimer's disease, and you find a lot more of it in the brains of those with Alzheimer's. So why would you eat peanuts? Because they taste good. Dude, there's plenty of things like ribeye that taste good too. Just eat stuff that has less toxins and also tastes good.
Okay, fair enough. When I heard about the whole peanut thing, this was when I was really sick. I was working with a naturopath, and he helped me get back to health. And he said, avoid peanuts like the plague.
Yeah,
Get them
they're
out of your
terrible.
diet. My digestive system got better. My skin, even I noticed my skin got better. And I honestly don't even miss it after 8-9 years of just cutting them out.
That was the oxalate probably causing those problems for you. And you won't miss peanut butter. If you must do a nut butter, and by the way, I haven't had a nut butter in a while, macadamia butter is clean, and pili nuts, which most people haven't heard of, Pili. They're almost all monounsaturated. They don't have oxalate. I don't know if there's pili nut butter, but I pretty much would eat macadamias or pilis. And if you want, an ounce of walnuts, they're relatively moderate. Just what I used to do was, I'll just cook with nut flour and I'll eat a whole bunch of nuts. Nuts and seeds and grains and legumes are all full of oxalate. But with grains, if you take off the outer part where all the toxins are to protect the inside, then they're okay. So white rice, or even, this will be shocking, white flour without glyphosate, if you ferment it to make sourdough bread, I had some of that this morning. So I don't eat American wheat because it's a It's a hard wheat that's full of aggressive gluten, and all of the wheat here is contaminated with glyphosate. So a teaspoon of American wheat wrecks my gut. But if I buy wheat from France and I ferment it, I can eat bread and I have zero symptoms.
So are you making your own sourdough?
Yeah.
Amazing. So you are pro sourdough, homemade, all that good
No,
stuff.
I'm pro soft European wheat with no glyphosate sourdough. Because
Okay.
if you go to the store and you buy white flour in the US and then you try to make sourdough, you are not going to get the same results. And if you're celiac, you'll have issues. If you're at the bottom of your health journey, maybe you shouldn't try that. For me, I have the same effect from white rice as I do from sourdough made from glyphosate-free, soft European wheat. And the good news is even Walmart sells French wheat. And do not buy Italian wheat, because right now there's a shortage of wheat in Europe. So they're sending American contaminated flour to Italy where they grind it and sell it as Italian wheat. Go for the French
their
stuff.
health issues. They're gonna
Oh, yeah.
experience what we do now. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
What about tiger nuts? I know that's typically a tuber, but what do you think about those?
It's been a while since I looked at tiger nuts. I don't think I could talk intelligently about that.
Okay. Hey, I love the answer. Can we talk about stevia for a second? Because I have been very like anti-stevia. I know it's a contraceptive and it can alter the gut microbiome, but I've also heard it's a biofilm disruptor, and that's good.
You know, it depends on the use case. So the dose and usage for contraception, I've read a bunch of stuff about this, and I know that historically it's been used in a couple countries for that, but I don't know what effect it's having on humans. I think there's a lot of other fertility disruptors. In fact, I wrote a book. My first ever book was on restoring fertility and having healthier babies. The mother of my children, my former wife, was infertile when we met, and it took nutrition to turn her system around so that we could have our two kids. And my daughter is about to turn 18. Right, so this knowledge is out there.
Okay, so just give us a little bit of a hint. What was like the three main things you helped your previous wife do as far as nutrition?
In the world of biohacking, this won't sound that radical, but you got to remember this was actually now 20 years ago when we did the programs, because my daughter's 18. And the book is, I don't know, 15 years old now, but people still buy it and they still have kids with it. What we did is we ate a ton of saturated fats, including choline donors like egg yolks, which is really important. We got her off of endocrine disruptors like flax and soy. So putting flaxseed and using soy milk in your morning routine is just not a good idea. And remove toxins and added more animal protein. And doing that and reducing stress, but having healthy circadian rhythm is really important. So I wear the True Dark glasses that I'm wearing right now that block toxic blue and allow healthy blue in. And we have the only glasses that are published in a medical journal as putting your brain in a meditative state after 15 minutes of wearing them. Those are the ones that you wear in the evening. They're a specific type of red tint. It's actually 5 layers of optical filters. So the True Dark glasses, they came about from understanding circadian biology and fertility. So if you want to get pregnant, have darkness after the sun goes down. Have morning sunlight in the morning. Stop eating seed oils and tons of sugar and endocrine disrupting foods full of toxins. And magically, when we did that, it took about a year to get rid of her infertility. She's a medical doctor, and her medical colleagues diagnosed her and said, "You're infertile. You're not going to have kids." We did. 2 of them, no IVF.
Heck yeah.
At age 42 was our second one.
Amazing. Okay, so there's hope for those listening right now if you're trying.
Definitely hope. Yeah.
Yeah, I get a lot of people coming in and they're like, "Man, I just feel like I'm done." Like they're doing all the things. Interesting about the True Dark glasses for those interested. So I'm gonna check those out myself because I think they look super cool. And I also want to bring up, you said, I think a lot of people are aware of soy, right? But also flax. People don't know that's huge in estrogen, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people say, "Oh, phytoestrogen, it's healthy." No, we are swimming in estrogen. Women and men are low in testosterone and high in estrogen right now. And being low testosterone, high estrogen, man, it is so bad for you because when testosterone is low, you don't care about doing things that matter because testosterone drives dopamine, and dopamine motivates you to work towards a goal, whether you're a man or a woman. And people don't know this. A healthy woman has 4 times more testosterone than estrogen, right? And of course, men have a lot more testosterone than women, and we have much less estrogen. But if you're low testosterone, high estrogen as a man or a woman, your body doesn't feel good, your brain doesn't work right, and you're unmotivated. And I'm saying this from personal experience. When I was 26, my anti-aging doctor called. I was one of the few people on earth to have an anti-aging doctor back then, and I knew him because I sent my parents to him. He called and said, "Dave, your testosterone is lower than your mom's." So I was just an early adopter of the chronic low testosterone that people are all experiencing today because of a bunch of things: endocrine disruptors, microplastics, LED lighting, circadian disruption, and all of these estrogenic foods and chemicals in our environment. So that means your job, whether you care about fertility or longevity or just being motivated to make a difference in your family and your community and the world, you've got to address the hormone issue. And in Heavily Meditated, I talk about dopamine specifically. And there's a funny practice, and I gave it a name, and it's called bicep. And it's not this bicep on your arm, it's brief, intentional, conscious exposure to pain. And like, what? I remember in high school, I heard, well, these monks long ago, they used to whip themselves on the back. It's called self-flagellation. I was like, what a horrible thing. They hate themselves so much and they think they're such sinners. That's not why they were doing it. And then I heard, well, the yogis, they lay on beds of nails. I'm like, why do they do that? Oh, they do that because they want to prove how good of a yogi they are. Like, you ever see a yoga competition? They're not trying to prove anything, right? And it turns out in Texas here, we eat really, really spicy peppers. And in the world of biohacking that I created, we put ourselves in ice water that's really uncomfortable. So it doesn't really matter how you do it. Oh, and addicts, people who are working really hard on their motivation to recover from something, they oftentimes have a lot of tattoos and piercings because the pain of getting a tattoo regulates your nervous system. So briefly choosing to do something painful, well, it changes the sensitivity of dopamine receptors in your body by up to 250%, which means it takes less dopamine to motivate you to do what you want to do.
Dang. That's a tough
So,
swallow. That's
yeah,
tough to
like,
swallow. I think we should just all go on a roller coaster and then we'll reset everything.
I wonder if a roller coaster would count. You definitely get some endorphins from that. But it's kind of funny. That title in the book is called Go Spank Yourself, or the title of the chapter. Because it's like, look, here's the deal. It doesn't matter, right? In fact, I interviewed a somatic therapist who's also a dominatrix. She's like, some of my clients need physiological inputs, so I'll do that. I'm like, what? So bottom line is, your nervous system needs you to show it that you're the boss. It's just like you train the dog. Okay, sit, right? And there's various ways of training, but you just tell your body, this is going to be uncomfortable, but sit. And when you do that, magically, then throughout the rest of the day, it's easier to meditate. It's easier if you're a monk to pray. It's easier if you're a yogi to yoga. And if you're an entrepreneur or a dad or a mom, it's easier to be calm and patient with your kids or with your employees or whatever the heck else it is that's a challenge for you in your life, right? It's profound. And in Heavily Meditated, like, what are all of the ways that we can alter our state? Because healing is an altered state, because being peaceful is an altered state, because being intuitive or aware or in a flow state, these are all altered states. And we know how to put your body and mind into those states now. And it doesn't matter which of the techniques in the book you choose. You're going to read the book and say, that one really resonates. I'm going to try it. And yes, meditation works. It just takes a long time. So what are the amplifiers of it? And there's a chapter on psychedelics. You don't have to do psychedelics to enter altered states. There's a chapter on 3 different kinds of breath work. There's a chapter on this bicep idea. And bottom line is, what do you want to change about your state? Let's choose a meditation and let's choose the accelerators, breath work, sound, light, all these things that are available that most people don't know about.
Okay. So if someone wanted to change their gut and digestion, because the gut is basically considered the second brain. So is it, in order to change your gut, you have to change your brain, or is it vice versa? You have to change your gut for your brain to work?
They're so connected. One of the things that's really crazy effective, if you want to work on meditation or sort of having inner peace instead of anxiety and stress, activated charcoal.
Really?
Activated charcoal is a 10,000-year-old remedy for digestive distress. And when you take it, it will bind to toxins in the gut called lipopolysaccharides. Lipopolysaccharides will cross the gut barrier and they'll enter the body and the brain and cause inflammation. When your brain is inflamed, your ability to be present is lowered. So if you bind the toxins in the gut, it also binds some heavy metals too and some pesticides. So when you bind those toxins, your ability to be present goes up, right?
How often should we be doing this?
Well, activated charcoal in excess can cause constipation. And if you take it near herbs or medications, it can bind to the medications so that they don't take effect. So you should take it away from, you can take it with food if you want to, but you should take it away from supplements and medications. And how often should you do it? I like a capsule or two every day. Oh, it's also tied to about a 15% lifespan increase in animal studies. So it's good to remove toxins from the body.
Okay. Well, I'm battling mold in my lungs right now, and so that's kind of part of my whole regimen, but
Good
I'm
move.
wondering if I should amp it up a little bit.
As long as you're
So,
not getting constipated, there's a good case for it. And I'm assuming you're on systemic antifungal drugs?
yeah, I
Good.
am. We had to take a break from them because I actually had a skin reaction. I got allergic reaction from them. So we're trying to figure out the next best thing. So right now I'm in quote limbo on the meds, but it's a whole nother topic.
Got it.
But yeah, it's in working progress. I've also been a victim of, just for time's sake, but I'm really curious. I'm also been a victim of long COVID. Got it in 2020, and I've currently been doing some nicotine therapy. I'm curious your thoughts on the nicotine thing.
Well, the first thing we've got to address, do you have long COVID or are you a victim of long COVID?
I think I still have it.
Okay.
I literally
So
can't like
having it is
exercise like I
having it
used
is
to.
one thing. Being a victim of it is
Yeah.
another thing because you got to heal being a victim before you can heal from the actual cause.
So I'm not a victim?
No, you're not a victim. You got long COVID.
I've got it, apparently.
There you go. Okay. So long COVID is, this is going to piss people off. It's just chronic fatigue syndrome. I had chronic fatigue syndrome throughout my 20s. It's also tied with toxic mold. And funny enough, who gets long COVID, who gets chronic fatigue? People with toxic mold or something else interfering with their immune system. And long COVID might more accurately be named COVID vaccine injury because the great majority of people who got long COVID didn't get it from just COVID. But that's another discussion.
I didn't get vaccinated.
Okay.
I didn't do it once, but
Okay.
I did get
So-
COVID.
So how do you know they have long COVID versus just classical chronic fatigue from toxic mold?
Well, see, that's the thing. So I don't know how long I've had this mold, but I
Yeah.
know I've never felt the same since 2020.
Sure.
And I'm like, man.
What happens is various immune and emotional stresses stack up. And this is so tied in with heavily meditated. It's an awesome thing that you brought it up. So your body is seeking to feel safe in the world. And you can have like major heartbreak. You can have your house burned down. You can get Epstein-Barr virus. You get toxic mold. You get Lyme disease, which usually comes with toxic mold. You get metal poisoning. You get some environmental poisonings. And the body is so dysregulated that it falls into a sense of danger. And then your cell danger response, which is inside each cell. And your cells have their own operating system. They all talk to each other before you even get to think and decide, like, what's going on here? And they decide the body's under attack because of all this emotional stress, because of all this physiological stress. And since it's under attack, you need to turn on the danger response. And what that looks like is these little things called mast cells, MAST. Mast cells are like landmines inside your immune system. And their job is to wait till something heavy, like if it's a landmine, like in a war, a tank would go and it'd go boom and blow up the tank. Problem is, yours are so freaked out that if a bunny or a gust of air comes over it, it'll blow up. And when it blows up, that makes all the other ones around it blow up. And you get these waves of inflammation throughout the body. That is the root cause of chronic fatigue, whether it's from long COVID or mold or any of these other things, right? So how do we control that? And I got censored on Instagram for saying this, so I had to go to Telegram during that time. But you can treat mast cell disorders. So what you do is you take Claritin and Pepcid in the morning and at night. Claritin blocks the first histamine response, and Pepcid blocks the second one. And you must take stomach acid called betaine when you eat, because you won't have any when you take these. So this is in the morning and at night, twice as much as the package says. And when people do that, about 80% of them over the course of 6 months will resolve their symptoms, because it calms down the trigger for these immune cells so that they can die and new ones can be born in a calm environment. And that makes such a difference as someone who had profound chronic fatigue. And I talk about this in Heavily Meditated, like, your brain doesn't work. What are you going to do? This can absolutely just transform your life. And on top of that, you want to take other mitochondrial stimulators. And 9 years ago on my podcast, I typically find the unusual stuff early. I interviewed Dr. Nicotine. He's a professor for decades at Vanderbilt University who published the first paper in 1986 showing that low-dose pharmaceutical nicotine, not smoking, reverses Alzheimer's disease. I have flown out to Switzerland and met with the chief R&D executive at Philip Morris, now called PMI, to talk about the research on nicotine as a longevity drug. And in my longevity book, I recommend low-dose nicotine if you don't want Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And I have been on nicotine therapy for about 14 years now. Anywhere between 1 and 5, maybe 6 milligrams a day is definitely something for the vast majority of people, yes. And I do a little bit more than that these days, and I love it. It makes my brain work better. It's one of the most studied smart drugs. It's also an exercise mimetic, because when you have what you've got going on with long COVID, when you exercise, you feel like crap, right? Okay, well, so this is called exercise intolerance. So if you can't exercise because it wipes you out for 2 or 3 days, then you want to move as much as you can, like go for a walk, and then stimulate the effect of exercise in your cells via PGC1 alpha. And you can do that with pharmaceutical nicotine, like this little lozenge there. Now I'm on nicotine too.
There you go. Well,
Yeah.
I've been doing the patch,
Mhm.
and I did notice a difference.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it kind of just goes up and down. I was like, yeah, this is definitely working. And then some days I feel like, wait, is it? So I think I just need to be more consistent, but it's
The patches are the hardest to feel because they come in slowly, but they're the least addictive. So that's a good thing. But there's something else that is in my longevity work. This will also create the clarity I talk about in Heavily Meditated. And your body has all kinds of inflammatory proteins and waste products and scar tissue, and especially clotting factors. And if you have active spike proteins still in your blood, you will clot more than you're supposed to. So to solve that, there's a supplement called serapeptase. And this is a silkworm enzyme that breaks up scar tissue and extracellular junk. You need to take it on an empty stomach. And if you're specific to COVID, you would also want to take something called lumbrokinase, which is an earthworm enzyme that breaks up thrombin and fibrinogen, which is what causes clots. When you do this, you're going to have clearer thinking because your blood flows better. Why do I know all this weird stuff? Because when I was 26 and I was really sick. I had the chronic fatigue. I had prediabetes. I had high risk of stroke and heart attack because my blood was super thick, almost like I had COVID, but it hadn't been invented back then. So I learned about how to thin my blood in a way that doesn't cause bleeding, just to break up the extra tissues. And those enzymes are profoundly anti-aging. Better blood flow equals more consciousness. Having a brain that's metabolically active is a good thing. And that's why this so ties in with Heavily Meditated. Like, who would have thought a book about how to enter altered states would talk about gut-brain interaction? And why? Because it's the same control system. And because these underlying biological energy producing cells are actually influencing reality. And if they're stressed, you're stressed. So let's get them enough oxygen by making our blood flow better. And let's turn off the landmines by taking histamine blockers for a little while.
Okay. Dave, I feel like we could talk for like another 2 hours. But for time's sake, I'll end it here. This is a lot of information, good stuff for everyone to take in and absorb and digest, no pun intended.
Right.
So, people, if they want to get your upcoming book, Heavily Meditated, where do they go?
You can get Heavily Meditated anywhere books are sold. You can buy it online, and I did an audiobook for you in my own voice, and no AI did not read it. I read it. And this book, of all the books I've written, it's worth your time. It's going to save you thousands of hours of trying random meditation and breathwork stuff because it's going to guide you to the one that's right for you, or maybe the several. And it's the most important and most profound work I've done over the past 25 years is learning how to regulate my state consciously. So for you, Heavily Meditated is going to offer you the fast path to figuring out what's going to work for you.
Could we get the audiobook and meditate while we listen? Is that?
You can.
Oh, really? It's not
Totally.
a shortcut? Okay. Well, thank you so much, Dave. We'll have to have you back for round 2. And I appreciate all your work, and you're doing great.
Thanks, Bethany. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Digest This. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review in your podcast app to let us know. If you're ever wondering how you can support me and this podcast, sharing it with your friends and family is the best way. This is a Wellness Loud production produced by Drake Peterson and edited by Mike Fry. To check out more shows by my team, go to wellnessloud.com, and to email the show, message us at digestthispod@gmail.com. See you next time. The content of this show is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for individual medical and mental health advice and does not constitute a provider-patient relationship. As always, talk to your doctor or health team first.
Are you ready to rock middle age? I'm Dr. Tina Moore, Gen X truth teller and holistic physician. On the Dr. Tina Show, one of Apple Podcast's top alternative health shows, I share what actually works for metabolic health, hormones, and strength, backed by decades of clinical results, not trends. From loving the gym and hitting your protein goals to peptides and microdosing GLP-1s, it's all done the right way, not the hype way. Because menopause doesn't have to suck if you're fit. New episodes every Thursday, produced by Drake Peterson and Wellness Loud.